And so now kind of switching gears over to the Title IX policy revisions. So at the final University of Michigan Senate Assembly of 2018, you discussed the university's revisions to the policies regarding student sexual misconduct, as well as a ban on faculty-student relationships. And some of the revisions involved establishing two different pathways to settle cases, either through an adaptable resolution or through an investigative resolution, the involvement of a case member from the Office for Student Conflict Resolution during each of those investigations, as well as the option for students to cross-question one another. What about the new policies will allow the university to deal with sexual misconduct more effectively?
Yes, so one of the biggest challenges we've had for years now, not just a new challenge, is getting people to report. Our survey data showed that the frequency of reporting is far less than the frequency of people experiencing misconduct. And in order to help folks, we do many things. We do a lot of education work trying to diminish the frequency of the problems. But we want people who've been subject to sexual misconduct to step forward and ask for help, essentially. What's motivated our most recent change to generate this new interim policy on student sexual misconduct is a court case. So we lost a court case that was a very important case. We appealed it, we lost again. And the court case essentially says we have to offer a student who's accused of misconduct the opportunity to question their accuser in some kind of hearing. Now, we're very concerned, as many students are very concerned, that putting someone who's been subject to misconduct through an in-person hearing, sitting next to their accuser, would be enormously uncomfortable, re-traumatizing, and we fear it will diminish reporting. And if people don't report, we can't help them. So we've tried to develop, or we have developed, a new interim policy, and we're calling it interim because we need to see if we can make it better. Because of the court case, we had to do something different than what we were doing. It wasn't a choice of ours to continue. We weren't allowed to continue. The new aspects of this policy, in addition to a setting where this direct questioning can happen, mediated by a hearing officer, a highly trained hearing officer, this providing students with the option of what's called adaptable resolution. That's essentially where the two parties, if they're willing, can talk to someone from an office in student life who will kind of arbitrate the problem and get the two parties to agree to a resolution that doesn't involve having to go through this hearing and this confronting of one another. So it's kind of like mediation as opposed to a hearing and an adjudication. And we decided to try that. Some schools already do this. We had offered that option in other circumstances, not involving sexual misconduct, other student misconduct issues. And the hope is by providing the second pathway, some students who did not want to come forward and expose themselves to a hearing might come forward and say, yeah, I'd like to consider this other way of getting justice here, a sort of more negotiated way towards justice. So by offering that as an option, hopefully we'll get more students to step forward and ask for help. This is also happening in the setting of the U.S. Department of Education, having put out a proposed change in their regulations around how schools who receive federal support must adjudicate misconduct. And that's out for public comment. The comment period extends for another month or so. Many people have commented from this community. Many people have commented. As an aside, I've heard that there have been more comments on this set of proposed regulations than anything in the history of the education department. So everyone knows it. Everyone's putting in their 2 cents. We don't know how that's going to turn out. And once again, those regs, once they're approved, will have the force of law. So we'll have to adjust maybe our policies in the setting of these new government regulations. And then also as we begin, the policy went live on the 9th when the semester started. So as we begin to gain experiments and get feedback from students, we make further modifications to stay within the confines of the law, but to make it as easy and untraumatizing as possible for someone to come forward and ask for help.
Yeah. Great. And along with that, I know how will the addition of more avenues for handling sexual misconduct as well as the inclusion of a case number from Oscar impact the amount of time that it takes to
It's
handle
actually a case manager.
case manager.
And the idea behind a case manager is one of the criticisms we've heard quite a bit of our existing processes is sometimes it's hard for a student that's involved either as a complainant or a respondent to actually figure out what's going on. The procedure takes a while. In the interview mechanism, by the time you've interviewed people and gotten their written statements and send them back to edit and revise, just time goes by, and students are wondering what the heck is happening with my complaint, or someone that's been a witness is wondering what's going on, or somebody that's a respondent is saying this is hanging over my head. So having a case manager is a person with a specific job of being the go-to person for both parties to get information about the status of the case and to get reminded of the resources that are available for them. And I think that's a great idea. I think we'll try it. I think it can only help. The other modification is we lengthened the window of time that we've told students it may take to get to a conclusion. And the reason why is we were finding it impossible to meet this 90-day expectation. Too many people involved, things were too slow. Part of the slowness is trying to keep up with the workload of an increased number of reports of misconduct, and we've hired more people into the office trying to keep up. And then from the side of the students, the students continue to be responsible for all their classes and tests and assignments and all the things you have going on in life. And then there's spring break and there's summer vacation. And so there are delays in iterating the investigation of what happened because of the availability of complainants or witnesses. Your students at the same time, and you're not perpetually available for this. So it slows things down too. So we set a more realistic expectation that we're going to try to adhere to of turning this around within 120 days. And we'll try to make it shorter.
Mm-hmm.